But you have to know your purpose. If you lose sight of your purpose, nothing's gonna make sense. Nothing is gonna make sense. There's a question a lot of people suffer from, or struggle with rather. And that's the question of, why do bad things happen to good people? A lot of people struggle with this question. You know that that question is what happens when you lose sight of your purpose. And I'll explain why. The reason is that if you lose sight of your purpose, then you lose sight of what bad and good really are. You actually don't understand. If you lose sight of your purpose, you lose sight of what is good for me and what is bad for me. So when you ask, why do bad things happen to good people? The reality is, bad things never happen to good people. Bad things never happen to good people. And I'll tell you the proof for that. There's a prophetic hadith. There's a hadith that says, عَجَبٌ لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ أَمْرُهُ كُلُّ خَيْرٍ. The matter of a believer is strange. Why? Because everything is good for him or her. So do you see what the hadith is saying? The hadith is saying that bad things will never happen to a believer. And now immediately you're asking in your mind, but what about this? But what about this thing that happened? And what about this? And what about this person who lost, a family member, and this person who this happened to them, and this person? See, this is where we have to go back to the root. What actually is the definition of good and bad? Yes, I'm not saying that people aren't going to go through pain. I can't tell you that people aren't going to go through loss. But what we are promised is that for a believer, everything will end up good for them, even if it means pain and loss. That's deep. Even pain and loss ultimately is good for a believer. That's really deep. And that's, by the way, that's an entire other discussion. That's an entire other discussion. I talk a lot about that, inshallah, in the book, and I have a class called Silver Lining in AlMaghrib. But the whole idea is that no matter what comes in the path of a believer, if a person knows their purpose, everything that happens to you is actually for your own good. Is actually for your own good. I'll give you an analogy of that. When you take a child into the doctor to get shots, what's the reaction of that child? Anyone taken an infant to get shots? Not the happiest day for the infant, right? The infant screams, is angry, is like, very, very, isn't happy with the doctor, right? Now imagine you take a 10-year-old to get the same shot. And you can explain to the 10-year-old that this is for your own good. What's the reaction of the 10-year-old? Well, maybe not happy, but also not screaming and shouting, right? Okay. Now when you take an adult, a full-grown adult, who's going into the doctor to get life-saving medicine through a needle. So it's the same shot. Imagine that each of these people, the baby, the 10-year-old, and the adult, are all getting the same life-saving medicine. It's actually saving their life. Everyone with me? What's the reaction of the adult who's just had their life saved through this needle? Thank you. That adult isn't screaming and shouting. That adult isn't angry at the doctor. In fact, it's the opposite. The adult is grateful. Can someone tell me what's the difference between the baby and the adult?